Good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining us for yet another episode of Wake Up with YPN. Today's guest is the Iowa Association of Realtors' new legal counsel, Matt Blake. And in addition to getting to know Matt today, we are going to talk about the new Iowa legislation that passed recently regarding teams and the new advertising requirements for agents. So, if you're watching this live, feel free to ask questions in the comments and we will get to them. But first, I would like to introduce Matt. Good morning.
Welcome. Good morning. It's wonderful being with you on a Monday morning. So great.
Thank you. Yes, thank you so much for joining us. So, Matt, how long have you been with IAR?
So I have not been here long. This is the beginning of week 4. I'm very, very new. Very new.
Okay, that's okay. Well, we are still very happy to have you. What is your role that you've stepped into there?
So my role is, I am the legal counsel. So my primary duties as the legal counsel is to act as the attorney for the association. And what that entails is a variety of different hats that I will wear. First, the one that most members probably are aware of is the legal hotline. So that starts today, actually. I turned back on today. So if you have legal questions, feel free to email the legal hotline and I will try to get back to you in a timely fashion. And the other parts of my duties include the professional standards system that we have here at IAR. So again, for all that are realtors, there is a code of ethics. And so you as a realtor abide by that code of ethics, and there could be, if you do not act appropriately, could be ethics complaints filed against you, or you could file ethics complaints against somebody else. And one of my primary tasks is to oversee that system. And again, several years ago, it used to be all the local boards would be in charge of it, but now we've moved to a statewide system. And so myself and another member of our staff are the ones that primarily do that. And then there's just a wide range of other issues I will cover as we go. Those are kind of the two primary issues, but lots of stuff that I will be diving into at points in time for the benefit of the membership.
Perfect. Well, that is very good to know, and get to know that you will be wearing multiple different hats, and people might be reaching out to you for a few different reasons as you get settled into your new role. So, in the 2022 legislative session, there was a bill passed regarding real estate teams. Can you give us a review of what this entails?
So the bill that passed this past session it was actually kind of a small bill. It was not very long. It was only 2 to 3 paragraphs long. But the primary issue of this bill was to create the legal entity known as a real estate team. Again, that's been for many years. Many people have done teams and had cooperation with other members, married couples, things of that nature. But that has never been an identified legal entity within Iowa Code or the administrative rules. So this bill this year was one of its primary purposes was to create that as a legal entity. The additional part of it too was to clarify the advertising requirements of what a licensee or a team, again, it's both, it's an individual licensee and a team, when it comes to the display of brokerage on advertising and other public facing information that is provided to the public. So that's the primary scope of what this bill does.
Okay. And is there a definition of exactly what a real estate team is?
Yes, so and I will just read this verbatim. Again, it's fairly short, so I will read this verbatim straight
Okay.
from the law. So the definition as stated in the code states 2 or more licensees assigned to the same broker working together to provide real estate brokerage services and representing themselves to the public as a team. And that's the definition of a real estate team in Iowa Code.
It seems fairly simple, but I know it's been raising a lot of questions in our association and amongst our members. And when does this new bill go into effect? When do we all have to be compliant by this?
So yeah, this bill is kind of unique because there was two different dates of enactment.
Okay.
So all laws, unless they have a specific one that requires it upon signing of the governor, all laws go into effect July 1st of that fiscal year. So July, about a month ago, the law went into effect. And the
Okay.
part of the law that went into effect is the real estate teams portion. So right now, real estate teams are a legal entity within the state. The other portion that was delayed, though, is the advertising component of it. And I'll get into a little bit more of the specifics of it, but that is due December 31st of this year. That gives people the time to update, if necessary, their advertising and other information that they need to try to get in line with the new Iowa code.
Good to know. And those timelines are very good to know. We have a little bit of time here to get familiar with what the new rules are and get into compliance. So regarding those advertising requirements, what are the new requirements for individuals?
So again, the way the law is written is it says individual licensees and real estate teams. They're co-equally the same. So there is really no difference between a real estate team and an individual licensee in regards to this advertising portion. So I will, again, the bill is short, so I will read specifically what the bill says, and then we can chat about what some of that means. So the law as it applies to both teams and individuals states that that either the individual or the team shall conspicuously display the name of the brokerage immediately preceding or immediately following the individual licensee name or real estate team name in any advertising or information made available to the public. That is the specific language from the code.
So team or individual name followed by brokerage name.
Yes,
right?
and and again, the brokerage immediately preceding, which could be before or immediately after following. So it's either side, but yes, it needs to be conspicuously displayed.
Good. And is this on all marketing, such as digital, print, email, website, social media? Is there any specific?
So the way that the law is written is quite broad. It says in any advertising or information made available to the public. So again, I just, for purposes of this law, and if people are watching this just to kind of in your head, because we don't have administrative rules of defining some of this quite yet, you kind of go from the kind of the viewpoint of what a reasonable person would view this as, because that's what the courts would look at. So would a reasonable person interpret that to mean that any advertising or information made to the public? Yes. So I'm only prefacing all that is to say that you don't try to think, well, is this the public or is this public? If it's to the public and it's information you're providing, especially advertising, make sure that it applies to them.
That's really good to know. And is there any sort of document when you're working with teams and advertising and teams specifically, is there any sort of documentation that needs to be filed with the Iowa Real Estate Commission?
So yes. So the first thing that the only thing that they require at this point in time is the trade name. It's very similar to how other licensees have done in the past, that you need to at least register the trade name. So communicating with the Iowa Real Estate Commission, they're still kind of working this out. So just as kind of a briefer for everybody that may not be aware of Iowa code and how we do things. So what we did was we passed Iowa code. We passed that law that had this very simple definition, this very simple issue. But the problem is that there's still some issues of what does this all mean? Like conspicuously, what does conspicuously mean? Please help answer that question for us. So the Real Estate Commission is still working through exactly how this will be implemented. So their administrative rules have not been introduced to actually include real estate teams within their administrative rules. So right now in the administrative rules, real estate teams don't exist. So there's Iowa code, which is passed by the legislature, and administrative rules, which is created by an administrative agency. That agency is the one that implements the law. So we are still working through that process of what that specifically means. It will take a little time. It will take some time. They're not even sure how they're going to act, whether they'll just leave it at the code and just leave it kind of the way it is, or they're going to implement it. So there's still some issues that need to be worked out. So again, don't freak out. I don't think anybody's going to come down hard on any enforcement mechanisms at this point in time, because there isn't these clear rules as established. But be diligent in making sure that, especially in the advertising part, because that to me that's fairly clear. You do need to make sure that the brokerage is clearly and conspicuously displayed on your advertising. So, and again, I'll back up. Sorry, I'm kind of tailing off your question. I will
No, it's
back up
great.
to the reasonable person standard yet again. Is that, let's say, a yard sign? If you're driving up and all you can see is your team name, and you really can't see the brokerage in any way, and it's just really really small in the point in the back, that's not conspicuous. That would not pass the smell test, the reasonable person standard. You would probably need to be able to, if you can see one name from a distance, you need to see the other name from a distance. And that's probably the best rule of thought moving forward to go forward. And again, that's why there's several months to get this updated. Some people may not have to update, other people might have to. And it's just part of the new law. Um,
Yeah, no, it's great to know, and it's also great for us all to know that there's a lot of confusion, there's lots of new things coming about, and everyone, including you and everyone at IAR, are trying to come up with answers to all of our questions as we can. So I really appreciate you kind of breaking this down for us today. One more question, though, only because I know it's kind of stirred a lot of confusion, is that registering with the Iowa Real Estate Commission for that team name, is that to be done by the agent or the broker or both? Do you know?
so again, with anything, again, it comes, the power of usually derives from the broker. Again, you as a licensee do the actions of real estate under the business of the broker, under the brokerage. So again, we at this point in time, and actually I've confirmed, I called the Iowa Real Estate Commission before this, that registering does come through their firm or through your broker. It goes through the broker. That's the entity that will do the legally or do the registering.
Okay, that's really good to know because I've heard that out and about when talking to people. Is there any other information of recent changes that we should know about, or any other things you could think about sharing, or
No,
questions we've missed?
no. I honestly, I think at this point in time, it's the law has passed, and now we just have to work with the Iowa Real Estate Commission to see if there's going to be any additional clarifications or any other issues that they need to look at. I know they're meeting this Thursday, and I know this is one of their topics, so this might be something that continues on. But at this point in time, it's just be diligent with trying to come in alignment with with the advertising. And if you're acting as a team, you are a legal entity at this point in time. But when it comes to the registration and all of those stuff, it's still going to be kind of worked out a little bit. And of course, if there's ramifications for not complying with this new legislation, it's a law. Like everything else that's in code. If you do not follow this and you are reported the real estate commission, it could impact your license. So it's important to make sure that you are taking the correct steps to mitigate any risk upon your own license, and if you're a broker, and especially for all the licensees under you. So it's just important to just make sure that while it may be, kind of a pain to update things, it is the new law, and you need to make sure that you are in compliance, or you could face penalties similar to any other thing if you're not following the law.
Yeah, no, that's a very good point to make. And as we all kind of navigate these new waters and get into compliance and wait for that new deadline to come, speaking of kind of any additional questions that we might have, what would be a way that someone could reach out to you or someone at IAR with specific questions if they weren't answered in today's video?
Yeah, so they're on the website, you can find all the staff, and my email is not actually my personal email, but it's the legal hotline email. Feel free to email that's up and running. So you will get a response, even if it's I will provide a response to you. You can always just call us, or unfortunately I don't have the number memorized at this point in time. So
That's
I
okay.
got to Google it, and you can find the number. But we try to be as accessible as possible. Again, we exist to provide services and advice and represent the members. The members are our most important thing, so we will do whatever it takes to make sure that your questions are answered and your interests are well represented as this process moves forward.
Perfect. Well, that is great to know. And this morning, we don't have any questions that popped up live, but if any people are watching this afterward, feel free to put those questions in the comments and we will get back to them and respond to them later. But Matt, thank you so much for joining us this morning. I really appreciate all of your time and filling us in and helping us share some of this confusion, but also create some clarity to what we
I
know now.
I made it probably as clear as mud. I just was like, here's some clarity, and then nope, not quite there yet. So,
Well,
which is government, enjoy that.
well, and it's good to know that sometimes if there is some confusion that we're not alone in that, and to know that you guys are working hard to figure out and navigate the new law. So
Okay. Well, happy to be here. Glad. Thank you for asking me.
thank you so much, and welcome to IAR. We hope to see you sometime again soon.
All right.
So
Thank you.
thanks, Matt. Have a great morning.